Hello, Petal. Well, this is my third go at trying to record today. So first and foremost, I was looking, thinking, why am I levels wrong? Why is it not recording right? And I kept looking and thinking, first of all, I realised I hadn't actually plugged in my Yeti microphone, so I was like, hey, silly girl. And then the second time, the levels were still very off, and I was like, why is it off? And I realised I hadn't changed the setting from the kind of like computer microphone to the Yeti microphone on the actual programme. So this is my third attempt. Real life problems, Talking of which, so took this opportunity today to do some recording because the dogs are settled. They've just had their breakfast. They're kind of like settled down for hopefully be quiet for a couple of hours. I was actually talking in my last monologue that I tried about two things. First and foremost, I had a bit of a nightmare this morning getting my computer sorted because every time I was turning it on, it was opening up with a particular browser that comes with a particular system that I don't want to use. I don't want to use it, and like, least of all, I want it to be opening on System Startup, which irks the ever-loving F out of me. Not gonna lie. And I was like thinking, right, okay, let's do the basic, right? So let's go into the settings and let's just take it off, And then, so I went into settings, and there's 4 different settings in there. Not one of them is anything to do with on startup, opening on startup, right? I was like, a bit sneaky, are we? So I went to system settings. And I was like thinking, okay, it's got to be in the app settings, right? So I went into the app settings. No. I only had change, not remove, or uninstall, only change. I was like, okay then. So I gritted teeth here, and I was like thinking, you absolute mother fluffer. So I was unimpressed with that particular malarkey. I was like, racking my brain. And I was like, toy system startup. So then I had to go into system startup and do it there, which was a bit of a rigmarole, a bit of malarkey, And I was like, that's a bit cheeky. So that was one little anecdote for the day, because I'm rock and roll that way. Yes. The second thing is, right, okay, this is this time of year. Now, I know we're cracking on through the autumn-winter sort of season, but it is like 6 months out of the year. Well, considering that summer's only 2 weeks, essentially it's 9 months out of the year. But anyway, I digress. Well, it is in the UK anyway. But one of my favourite things is stationery and haberdashery, and I just like to have stuff there, organised, there for when I want to use it. Like last night, I was actually untangling yarn, and the reason it had got untangled in my yarn storage was the fact that somehow there was some like polyfiber stuffing in there, because I used to make little amigurumi toys, and I was like, how the heck has this yarn gotten so tangled? There's like a whole, there was 2 big bundles of yarn that had got entangled, and it must have been the polyfiber that kind of like static had gone and done it. So I was like sat there literally for an hour last night untangling yarn and rewinding it. That was so much fun. But I digress. So basically I like stationery, I like haberdashery, I like bits and bobs, and one of my most favourite things is when I start new books, when I start new characters, to write it down in my notebook, right? And of course another one of my favourite things is a brand new notebook. Like, I have them for my journals, I have them for, obviously taking notes for my characters and whatnot. I just like my notebooks, okay? And there's nothing more satisfying, apart from buying a normal, book to read, than opening a brand new notebook, folding it back, spiral-bound A5, it's got to be done that way. And then starting that first, notes. Now, I've got 4 new books coming for professional recording, so of course they've got 4 different pages, and then of course when it comes to my recording on here, I actually record back to front, so the professional stuff is front to back and this back to front. I just get satisfaction. What is your favourite thing? Where do you get that type of satisfaction from? I mean, we've got favourite smells like petrichor. I think we've discussed that before, when you've got the rain coming on. Hello, Zena. Zena's wanting to sit on my lap. You've got the rain coming down, and it's that particular smell in the summer. Or in the autumn here, there's a very particular smell in the air of stone and coal dust, but with fresh air and clean. Because obviously the mines are being closed down here for 40 years. But there's a particular stone smell up here in the northeast that you get, and it's beautiful because it's got the trees, it's got the ground, and it's just, I can't even, especially when there's frost in the air, it's got that very particular smell that comes over. Happy memories for me on that one. Just, isn't it crazy, the things that we really enjoy the most are to do with our senses? Well, of course our senses are a big part of it, but it's just kind of like that evoke a particular sense. And for me, it's definitely smell. Obviously we love the touch of a fleecy blankie, or the stroking of your favourite, well, actually we don't have favourites, don't tell me we've got favourites, but all your pets have got different fur types, and it's just, I'm waffling now, but it's just kind of like, the point I was going to make was, I've opened a new notebook because I got 4 new books on professional, and I got this I'm a bit behind on, and there's so many characters and I can't keep up, so I've got to go back through and record exactly the type of characters I was using, and I normally do it every single time, but I haven't done it yet. Right, nearly 6 minutes for the monologue today. What the heck? My excuse is, though, I had to do it 3 times. I had to try 3 times. This is the 3rd time, so that added a bit extra on. Anyway, so where did we get to? In the last one, we had a couple of doctors. Who were the couple of doctors? They were working on behalf of Julian. Julian is Osiris's son. They were wanting to grab Osiris and get him taken away or certified as being a bit, not compos mentis, as it were. But he was foiled. They were foiled by Sandra's quick thinking, who locked them in a cupboard. And she went and got Osiris, and they went zoom, 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 and caught public transport. Brave choice. But they caught public transport, and they got him away to Sandra's mum's house. And I did make a bit of a mistake because I kind of put them all on as kind of like a northern accent, but we have to do a backstory for Sandra and her mum, because they moved from up north to Wolverhampton for Sandra's job, and her mum moved with her because just keep each other company. So that's my excuse, and I'm sticking with it. So we leave Osiris in the care of Sandra's mum, and we also, the last scenes we had was our erstwhile heroes on their traction engine chariot zooming through the sky. So Thor, Odin and Frey were messing about a bit in the sky with their traction engine. So yes, I wanted to do a bit more for the recap today, but we're going to get a chapter. We're going to get Chapter 5 of Odds and Gods by our beloved Mr. Thomas of Holt. 7.5 minutes for a monologue. That's just wrong. Mrs. Henderson frowned. It hadn't been a good day so far. She'd completely lost one resident. Another one was out loose somewhere on the transparent pretext of buying socks. She'd had intruders on the premises, claiming to be doctors, which unsettled some more of the more ethnic gods, to whom doctors were people in leopard skins with short tempers and impaling sticks. And now one of the nurses had called in sick. Her intuition told her that Chaos was back in town, looking for a rematch. About 3/4 of the residents of Sunnyvoyde would have you believe that they had been solely responsible for putting Chaos in her place and giving Order the confidence to come out of her shell and form meaningful relationships. But Mrs. Henderson knew better. Chaos, as far as she was concerned, was a Greek word for what happened when you let people try and run their own lives. And it wasn't something that she permitted in her establishment. Thank you very much. Had Mrs. Henderson been in charge of the Garden of Eden, stewed apple would have been on the menu every second Wednesday, and anyone who didn't eat it all up would have had it put in front of them at every meal until they did. Narrator's note, scarred for life about that, and I'm triggered. Melanie, she said into the intercom. Input from the dog there. We'll try that again. Melanie, she said into the intercom, just come in here for a moment, will you? It was time, she decided, to stop getting in a fluster and start sorting things out. The doctors had gone, and any further reference to them would be firmly discouraged. Mr. Luck would be back eventually, and she would have a few well-chosen words with him when he did, and that would be all right. Sandra, the nurse, who had had the misfortune to contract some unspecified illness, would be given the opportunity to select a career more conducive to her obviously delicate health. Mr. Osiris thought it was a different matter entirely. Although the precise situation wasn't totally clear, Mr. Osiris would appear to have booked out for good. His toothbrush was gone, as were his gold watch, presented to him by the people of Egypt in recognition of 4,000 years of loyal service. He was ever so proud of that. And the little jar he kept all his leftover organs in, and Mr. Osiris owned the place. She wasn't quite sure what to do about him. By way of explanation, an unresolved uncertainty in Mrs. Henderson's life would be a little bit like a Tyrannosaurus in Central Park. Out of place, extremely rare, and, after a fairly short interval, extinct. Yes? Melanie, I wanted to put a call through for me. It's a Los Angeles number, fairly urgent, if you don't mind. She wrote the number and a name on a yellow sticky and handed it to her secretary, who glanced at it, looked up sharply, caught her employer's eye, and left the room quickly. There, said Mrs. Henderson to herself. Problem solved. There was no reply to Menalie's call, except for the inevitable answering machine. Thank you for calling Lundquist Associates. There's no one in right now to take your call, but if you leave your name, your number, and details of the supernatural entity you want killed after the tone, we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Beep. On the credit side, Osiris was blissfully unaware of the second front that was just opening up against him. On the debit side, he was sitting in front of a big plate full of Sandra's mother's rhubarb crumble. Narrator's note, yum, yum, yum. Gosh, he croaked. Oh, delicious. And is all that for me? It was a prospect, he felt sure, that would have intimidated anyone. To someone whose stomach currently lay sideways alongside his left lung, the result of a fairly basic misunderstanding on the part of Lady Isis of pages 34 to 56 inclusive of the instruction manual, it was enough to cool the blood. Tell him, said Sandra's mother. He needn't finish it if he doesn't want it all. Yes, Mum. Mind you, there's starving children in the third world who'll be really glad of a nice bit of rhubarb crumble. It'd certainly make them count their blessings, Osiris reckoned. He picked up his spoon and picked tentatively at the southerly aspect. Care was needed in making the first breach in that impressive structure. One false move and the whole lot might come crushing down on him. Yes, Mum. From behind the cover of the big vase of plastic flowers, Sandra winked at him, setting off an alarming sequence of memories which he thought he'd cauterized years ago. Dear God, yes. The first time he ever went to tea with Isis's parents. Isis's father was the Word and her mother was the Great Void, and they weeded out their daughter's ineligible suitors by means of the diabolical practice of trial by masked vegetables. With a start, Osiris realised that all these goings-on were causing him to revisit his lost youth, which was a nuisance to say the least. He hadn't enjoyed his youth one little bit. In fact, far from losing it, he'd left it behind, so to speak, by means of an open window and a rope of knotted sheaths. Tell him, said Sandra's mother, there's some nice hot custard if he wants it. Oh, yes, Sandra replied. Mr. Osiris loves hot custard, don't you, Mr. Osiris? Gods don't make particularly good liars. Narrator's note, if he doesn't like custard, he's evil. He's pure evil. They don't get the practice because they don't feel the need. Nobody asks a god why he's late for work this morning, or was it him who broke the window, for fear of getting a response along the lines of, yes, and you want to make something of it. Several thousand years of married life had nevertheless left Osiris with a reasonable grasp of the basics of the craft. Yes, he said. Oh, delightful. While Sandra's mother was out of the room, doing whatever it is you need to do to bring about hot custard, Osiris leaned across the table and grabbed Sandra by the wrist. No offence, he hissed, but you've got to get me out of here. Much more of this does he like hot custard stuff, and somebody not a million miles from here is going to go to bed different shape. Don't be worried. That's my mum you're talking about. Osiris sighed, letting go of Sandra's wrist. I know, he said, and I'm being very ungrateful. Old God's privilege, that is, but she treats me like I don't exist. You shouldn't do that to a god, you know. We're insecure enough as it is, without people not believing in us all over the place. Sandra bit her lip. I don't think she can see you very well, she said. Ah, Osiris nodded. I might be able to help you there. What is it? Cataracts? Glaucoma? Sandra shook her head. No, she said. Her eyes are fine. I think it's her imagination that's a bit wanting in places. I don't think a disbelief suspends very well. After all, this is Wolverhampton. There haven't been any gods in these parts for, I don't know how long. There's certainly never been any gods on the Orchard Mead House in the estate.
That's terrible,
Osiris said, shaken.
I mean to say, surely everybody is capable of believing in gods. We built you that way for pity's sake.
I'm afraid you're a bit out of touch, Mr. Osiris.
Struth.
Osiris leaned back in his chair and thought about it. It wasn't a concept he found easy to get hold of. I mean, people could like or dislike gods, sure enough. Despise them, certainly, hate them even, but not believe in them at all? That was like people not believing in rain just because they didn't like getting wet. I'm sorry.
Not your fault, Osiris sighed. You're quite right. I am out of touch. No wonder I felt all weak since I got here. There's much of it about, is there? This not believing?
Lots. And lots.
What do people believe in, then, if they don't believe in gods?
You had to say. Sandra rubbed her nose pensively. The telly, of course, and family life, and Wolverhampton Wanderers Football Club, which only goes to show you what you can do if you really set your mind to it. Osiris shook his head slowly. Belief is to gods what atmosphere is to other, rather more temporary life forms. They live in it, and it shapes them, in the way that millions and tons of water overhead shape the curiously designed fish that live at the very bottom of the sea. This can, of course, have its unfortunate side. When, for example, the quizquacks of central Peru had finally had enough of their god Tlatelolco's obsession with human sacrifice a la nouvelle cuisine, one small human heart garnished with fine herbs and served with the blood under the meat, they exacted a terrible revenge, not by ceasing to believe in him, but by believing in him with a fervour never before encountered even in such a pathologically devout race as the quizquacks. They also chose to believe in him in his aspect as an excessively timid field vole inhabiting an enclosed kitchen full of hungry cats.
I've definitely got to get out of here, Osiris said. Look, don't let me put you to any more trouble. Just call me a taxi and I'll go and find a hotel somewhere.
A hotel? Sandra laughed. You won't last 5 minutes.
Wouldn't I?
No chance.
What makes you say that?
By way of a reply, Sandra reached for her handbag and produced a mirror. Osiris took it from her, automatically smoothed his hair and had a look.
Oh,
he said.
I see.
Exactly. Now, perhaps you understand why Mum doesn't choose to be able to see you very well. It's just as well she got such a limited imagination, or she'd be halfway up the wall yelling for the social services by now. The face Osiris had seen in the mirror was, beyond question, his own. That was, of course, the problem. The plain fact of the matter is, gods are radiant. They shine, and no amount of face powder and foundation was ever going to have any effect on the dazzling glow that was pouring out of him. Pouring out of him. Literally glowing. You could have got a healthy tan just by briefly catching his eye.
It hasn't done that for ages,
he said weakly.
Why is it doing it now?
They've got some sort of infrared thing back at the home, Sandra replied. Suppresses it or filters it out. Something like that. Out here, of course.
Gosh.
I'm used to it, Sandra went on. And besides, all of us nurses are given these special contact lenses. Otherwise we'd spend all day wandering about, bumping into things. It's a dead giveaway, I'm afraid. Osiris handed back the mirror, noticing as he did so that the plastic frame was just starting to melt.
Any suggestions?
He muttered. Well, Sandra helped herself to a plank-like slice of bread and butter. At first, I thought of seeing if we could get you a job as a lighthouse keeper.
Good thinking.
Only that would take some time to fix up, and we've got to keep you out of sight until I've had a chance to find out exactly what's going on. Really, your best bet is to stay here and sweat it out.
Sandra, What choice do you have? Yes, but that mother of yours, please don't get me wrong, salt of the earth.
If by that you mean she makes you feel like having a very big drink, yes, I find that myself too.
It wouldn't be so bad, Osiris said mournfully, if only she'd admit I was here. Actually talk to me, things like that.
Sandra nodded. Actually, she said, I reckon it might be possible to get her to do that.
Oh, yes? How?
You could try offering her a very substantial sum of money. Even with Sandra's mother talking to him, Osiris found it very hard to settle. True, he now had his own room, with a view out of the shunting yards and a small black and white portable television capable of receiving 2 channels, but the waves of disbelief were definitely getting to him. And he didn't like the effect it was having. Twice he dropped things because his hands suddenly became translucent and feeble, and he was getting pins and needles all over his body. He scarcely had the strength to wheel himself over to the deli to change the programmes. Never mind. He looked up at the clock, which told him it was almost time for the young doctors. Soap operas was something of a lifeline to him, on the grounds that if the inhabitants of this particular country, this peculiar country, could watch this sort of thing without serious credibility disorders, they were capable of believing in anything. Narrator's note, soap operas, not a fan. Not a fan. If you look at it, say if you've got people who've been in the soap opera for the whole time that it's been on, right? You look at the amount of serious crimes and murders and intrigue, and he's knocking her off and she's knocking him off and they're all knocking each other off and all this, that and the other, right? That's more than the average street. That's more than the average cul-de-sac. That's more than the average square. It's all well and good saying, oh, we've got this for this season and this for this season and that for that season, but it's just and it just irks them, and the bloody acting in some of them so melodramatic. It's like, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh, I can have a part, what I can do. Right, let's get back to the book then. He switched on the set and settled back in his chair. Adverts. Was there time to plug in the kettle and make himself a nice cup of... He knew that voice.
Absolutely free when you buy 2 or more packets of new Zaz with their unique biological fragrance.
Surely not. He must have retired years ago. Only, Osiris reflected, if he had, then surely I'd have seen him about the place, and I haven't, and nobody could call him inconspicuous.
But hurry, because this special offer must end soon, so don't miss out on this unique chance to save.
It was him for sure. Osiris could tell by the way that, in spite of everything, he was gripped with this insane desire to buy fabric conditioner. Not because he wanted it, but because he was afraid of missing out on the unique special offer. Very afraid, panic-stricken even.
The old bugger.
Osiris chuckled.
Well, fancy that. Guess what?
I've brought you some tea, said Sandra, putting the tray down on the bed. It's boiled chicken with cabbage and mashed potatoes, with stewed plums and custard to follow. Osiris looked away.
I've just seen someone I know. Well, more heard than seen, and you'll never guess.
Come on, Sandra said. Eat up. Don't want the custard getting...
And
Osiris went on.
I've made up my mind what I'm going to do next.
Sandra narrowed her eyes. I don't like the sound of this, she said. I thought we'd agreed that you were going to be sensible and stay here until we got things straightened out.
Yes, Osiris said, but that was before I found out my old friend Pan's still on the loose.
He produced a theatrical chuckle.
Talk about a complete lunatic. The times we've had together, it'll be like holiday, just...
Pan? Osiris took a deep breath.
He's a god, he said, and he's doing voiceovers on the commercial breaks. Obviously he hasn't retired yet, and we go back a long way, Pan and me. He wouldn't begrudge a bit of house room for an old chum. So first thing in the morning, I'm going to phone that TV station and leave a message for him.
I see, said Sandra stiffly. "And you think—"
"Yes." Osiris scowled. "Please don't take this the wrong way, but I feel at my time of life I'd be better off with my own kind. I've made my mind up and—"
"It'll all end in tears, you mark my words."
"I'm a god," Osiris said grimly, "and I'll do what I damn well please. I invented free will, damn it, so why shouldn't I have some for a change?"
Sandra shrugged and put the tray on his lap. "All right," she said, "that's fine. Only what makes you so sure this person will want you descending on him out of the blue and getting under his feet?"
"Don't worry about that," Osiris said,
and a grin the size of Oklahoma spread slowly across his face.
"That's not going to be a problem. You mark my words.
Eat your nice tea."
"And that's another thing."
"Or," Sandra said meaningfully, "there'll be second helpings of everything."
"Oh, right. Yes." "Don't worry," Thor said, wiping his forehead with his sleeve and scrabbling in the toolbox. "I can fix it, no problem. Just get out of my light and let the dogs see the—"
"To the gods all things are known."
"I still think it's the main bearing," Odin said. "Else why was it making that tapping noise?" "What tapping noise?" "I distinctly heard the tapping noise 5 minutes or so before she ceased," Odin replied. "I'd have mentioned it only you'd have bitten my head off."
"I'm hungry," Frey observed from under the shade of his golf umbrella. "We've missed dinner and breakfast, and I'm damned if we're going to miss lunch too."
"Belt up, Frey,"
Thor replied, rubbing his beard with his oily left hand.
"Odin, can you remember which way round the cotterpin's supposed to go on this axle?"
Frey stood up and shaded his eyes with his hand. In front of him the Alps rose in dizzying white majesty, blinding in the cold, clear sunshine. "Are you sure that's Matlock over there?" he said.
"Nowhere else it could be," Odin replied. "But look at the map if you don't believe me."
"I think I'll just go out for a stroll."
"Don't get lost."
Frey grinned. "I'm only going as far as the nearest place they sell food," he said. "I don't suppose I'll be very long." He walked away down the slope, picking his way with care through the rocks. He thought, gazing out over the surrounding landscape. "So that's why they call this a Peak District." He hadn't gone far when he came across a man and a woman walking slowly up a hill. The man was about 60, the woman perhaps a year younger. They were plainly but neatly dressed, and the man was leading a laden donkey. Frey smiled. There was a source of inside information. Now there is a well-established tradition that when the gods walk abroad among men, they do so in some form of disguise. Gods manifest themselves as beggars or weary travellers, goddesses as washerwomen or old crones gathering firewood. Men say that this is typical underhand management behaviour, sneaking about and spying, like unmarked police patrol cars on motorways. Gods know that the real reason is to spare gods the embarrassment of not being recognised by their adoring worshippers. Frey shrugged his shoulders and became a fraction of a second a weary traveller à la mode. Airtex shirt damp with perspiration, heavy flight bag over one shoulder, suitcase in hand, crumpled sun hat perched on his head. He cleared his throat. "Excuse me," he said. The couple turned and looked at him. "Excuse me?" he repeated, his memory trying to recollect the local cuisine of North Derbyshire, as reported by popular television drama. "Could you possibly tell me where I might be able to get cod, mushy peas, pickled gherkins and a really tasty chapati, please, and jam roly-poly, and a nice strong cup of tea," he added. The man and the woman looked at each other and conferred in a foreign language, which Frey, to the gods all things are known, thought was probably Portuguese. "Sorry," said the man haltingly. "No understand English. Sorry." Between gods and men there are differences, and there are similarities, as between, say, the very rich and the very poor. Divine public relations have in the past tended to play down the similarities, understandably enough, but in more recent years this approach has been revised. "Hey guys," the gods now say, "we aren't really all that different. We're just guys and gals, same as you. If you prick us, they say, do we not bleed? Well, No, actually, they admit, we don't. And anyway, that's not a particularly apt example to choose, because anyone trying to prick us is likely to find themselves on the bad end of many millions of volts of static electricity. But you know what we mean. Accordingly, it's not too remarkable that as Frey continued his journey down the hill, and the man and his wife plodded on up the hill, exactly the same phrase should have leapt spontaneously into their minds. Bloody tourists, they thought. Of course, said Mrs. Henderson, we're all extremely concerned. Extremely taking off like that, a god of his age. She paused, and Julian's extra perceptive senses caught a whiff of a point of being surreptitiously made. I'm very much afraid, she said, that something might happen to him. Really? Such as what? Mrs. Henderson shrugged, as if to say that in a curved universe anything is by definition possible. I'm sure he'd be all right, she said. After all, he is a god and fundamentally quite sensible for his age. But with this terrible cold weather we've been having, and he hasn't taken his blue pills with him. You don't say. The two looked at each other, and electricity crackled in the air. It was as if the two thieves crucified on either side of our Lord on that first Good Friday had put their heads together and decided to cut out the middleman. His blue pills, said Julian slowly. That could be serious. Very. I dread to think what might happen to him without his blue pills. Not that anything will, of course. No, of course not. It's just that it's always advisable to consider the very worst that might happen, just in case. Quite so. Which is why, said Mrs. Henderson, taking a deep breath and hoping very much that she hadn't completely misinterpreted the messages emanating from under Julian's eyebrows, I've taken the liberty of engaging a private inquiry agency. See if he can find your godfather for us. Splendid. Splendid. A Mr. Lundqvist. Ah, he came highly recommended. Top-rate man, exactly what I'd have done in your position. Oh, I am glad. Julian allowed himself the luxury of a smile. It would cost a paying client about a year's salary to be smiled at by Julian, but he treated himself to a smile a month at cost. If Kurt Lundqvist can't sort this business out, he said, nobody can. The same Kurt Lundqvist was, at that precise moment, locked in hand-to-hand combat with a tall gentleman with projecting teeth and a conservative taste in evening dress, at the bottom of an open grave somewhere in what used to be called Bohemia. It should have been a perfectly straightforward job. Go in, garlic under nose, whack the hickory smartly through the aorta, and home in time to catch the closing prices on Wall Street. But he'd recently taken on a new assistant, and she wasn't yet 100% au fait with the technical jargon of the supernatural contract-killing profession. Look! He gasped through clenched teeth that the Count's icy fingers closed round his throat. Can't we just cut this a bit short, because I'm due in Haiti for a rogue zombie at 6:30. I don't like to rush you, but... A right pillock he'd looked, reaching into his inside pocket and fetching out a £5 lump hammer and a prime cut of best rump steak. He would have various things to say to Miss Parfimowitz when he got back. Nothing personal, counted the Count, but I'd rather we went through the motions. OK, that's fine, Lundqvist replied, as his right hand finally connected with the butt of his 40 Glock automatic. I'm about through here anyway. The bullet wasn't, strictly speaking, silver, but it was a Spear 170-grain jacketed hollow point, backed by 6 grains of unique and a Federal 150 primer. By the time the echoes of the shot had died away, the Count didn't seem in any fit state to discuss the finer points of metallurgy. You would have to be abnormally thin-skinned to take as any sort of valid criticism. Nevertheless, Lundqvist felt peeved. It wasn't the way these things ought to be done. You had to preserve the mystique. Once people cottoned onto the fact that any Tom, Dick or Harry could blow away the undead with a factory-standard out-of-the-box compact automatic, they wouldn't be quite so eager to pay through the nose for the services of a top-flight professional. A quick glance at his watch told him he was badly behind schedule. A quick scout round produced a 3-foot length of broken fence post, and a few strokes of his Spyderco Ultramax lock knife put another point on it to do the job. He was just dusting himself off and searching the pockets for any small items of value when his bleeper went. "Lundqvist here."
"Oh, Mr. Lundqvist, I'm sorry to disturb you like this. I hope I haven't called at an inconvenient moment."
"No, it's okay. While I think of it, what I had in mind when I gave you the equipment this morning was steak. S-T-A-K-E, not..."
"Oh gosh, Mr. Lundqvist, I'm most terribly sorry. Really I am. I never thought..."
"That's fine,"
Lundqvist broke in order to have the time to wait for a natural break in the flow of Miss Parfimovich's apologies. You had to be a giant redwood at the very least.
"It wasn't a problem as it turned out. Just remember it for next time, okay?"
"I will, I promise. I'll just quickly write it down and then I'll be sure to remember. That's steak spelled S-T-A..."
"Ms. Parfimovich," Lundqvist said firmly. "Quiet. Now, what was so goddamn important?"
"Oh yes, I'm sorry I got sidetracked. I must stop doing that. It must be so irritating for you. And Mrs. Henderson called. She's not in the card index, but she knew the private number, so she must be genuine, don't you think? And she wants you to kill a god."
There was a brief pause while Lundqvist grabbed for the receiver, which he had somehow contrived to drop.
I don't think I heard you right," he said. "Kill a god?"
"That's what she said, Mr. Lundqvist. Of course, I could have got it down wrong. I know I'm still having trouble with taking messages off the machine, but I'm pretty sure..."
"Mrs. Henderson, you said."
"That's right, Mr. Lundqvist. Do you want me to spell that back for you?"
"I'll be straight back. Call Haiti, cancel the zombie, make up some excuse. This is far more important."
"Oh."
The voice at the end of the line quavered slightly.
"What excuse can I make, Mr. Lundqvist?"
"Tell them," Lundqvist grinned, "tell them I had to go to a funeral."
Yay, Mr. Lundqvist is back! Woo! We love Kurt Lundqvist. I love that character. I love the bombastic nature of him. I think he's absolutely outstanding. Well, I see him as one of those guys with like a blonde bouffant, like fluffed up hairdo with a quiff and big muscles and like that's what he says when he walks along. He goes So we have got a bit of a summary on this one. So Osiris doesn't really like staying at Sandra's house, so what he's going to do, he's going to yeet himself off to go and live with Pan, because he heard Pan on the adverts and he thought, ooh, he'll stay with him. So Sandra was a bit put out about that because that was a little bit rude, because he just didn't like the food and everything like that. He's still a bit antisocial. And it was actually Mrs. Henderson working in conjunction with Julian, who's Osiris's son, who's actually called out Mr. Lundqvist to go and get Osiris. Well, my goodness gracious, that's going to be a bit porky. So, my lovely beans, if you've gotten this far, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notifications bell, la-da-da. I mean, it's not essential, but buy it because it does now help the channel. It really does help. My brain went completely blank there. I'm so sorry. Just having to say that bit, I just kind of go blah, blah, blah. But, lovely beans, please take care and look after yourselves. Please leave a comment, let me know how you're doing, or drop me a line, send me an email. You know how to do the thing. If you don't hear back from me right away, give me a couple of days, and if you still don't hear back from me, write back to me going, "Oh, you said to send you an email and you've not replied to me. Oh, what's going on here?" But if it's too hot, hydrate and keep yourself in the shade. If it's too cold, wrap yourself up in a blanket, become a human burrito and drink a hot drink. But most of all, my darling beans, I appreciate you. Take care, Petal.